Tell me about yourself. First, I describe myself as a hardworking and reliable person who's looking to build a career in the resources industry, not just find a job. Second, I learn quickly, I stay calm under pressure, and I always put safety first, because I know that on site those three things matter more than anything I could say about myself. Finally, I'm physically fit, I follow instructions well, and I'm ready to commit fully to the Fifo roster. I've been working full-time and studying for this at night for months, so I'm not walking in blind. Why do you want to work in a Fifo role? First, I want a role where hard work is actually rewarded and where I can build a stable future. I'm willing to put the work in, and I want that to count for something. Second, Fifo offers strong pay and a clear structure, and I'm comfortable with the roster lifestyle. The rhythm of it suits how I work. Finally, I see this as a long-term career, not just a job. I'm not looking for one swing and out. I'm looking to build something here. What do you know about Fifo work and the roster lifestyle? First, I understand Fifo means flying out to a remote site and working set rosters, for example, 2 weeks on and 1 week off, so the work and the travel are both part of the job. Second, I know it involves long shifts, living in camp, and being away from home, and I've looked at that honestly rather than assuming I'd be fine. Finally, that lifestyle actually suits me. I enjoy meeting new people and I'm used to adapting to new environments, so I'm ready for the commitment rather than just willing to try it. What motivates you to work hard? First, I'm motivated by providing for my family and building a secure future. That's the honest answer, and it doesn't change on a bad day. Second, I also take pride in doing a job well and being someone the team can rely on. I want people to be glad I'm on their crew, not just present. Finally, that sense of responsibility is what keeps me going when the work gets hard, because turning up is easy and turning up properly is the part that counts. What are your strengths? First, my main strength is sharing important information quickly. If I spot a hazard or an issue, I make sure everyone knows straight away rather than assuming someone else has seen it. Second, I work well with others and I genuinely enjoy being part of a team. I'd rather the job go right than be the one who gets credit for it. Finally, I'm reliable, I learn fast, and I always finish what I start. If I say I'll do something, it gets done. What is your biggest weakness? First, in the past I sometimes took on too much myself instead of asking for help. I thought handling it alone was the responsible thing to do. Second, I've learned that on site that's actually the opposite of responsible. Speaking up and working as a team is both safer and faster, and staying quiet just moves the risk on to everyone else. Finally, so now I communicate clearly and I ask early rather than late. I'd rather ask a question that takes a minute than cause a problem that takes a day. Have you worked in a physically demanding job before? First, I haven't worked in mining, so I won't pretend I know what a swing feels like. Second, but I have done physical work, construction laboring and busy restaurant work, so I'm used to long hours, being on my feet all day, and keeping going when I'm tired. Finally, and for the last few months I've been doing that work full-time and studying English for this job at night. It was hard, but it trained me for exactly what this job asks, staying focused when you're already tired. If I can do that on top of a full day's work, I can do it at the end of a shift. How do you handle working long shifts? First, I drink water regularly and pace myself so I stay focused on safety right through the shift. The last hour has to be as sharp as the first. Second, I make good use of the scheduled breaks, and I look out for my teammates too, checking how everyone's holding up, because the person who's fading usually doesn't notice it themselves. Finally, between shifts I limit screen time on my phone so I can switch off and get proper sleep. Staying well rested isn't just about me, it's what keeps all of us sharp and safe. What do you do to stay fit and healthy? First, I exercise regularly to build up my fitness and stamina, and I eat well. I treat my body as part of the equipment I bring to work. Second, I also look after the mental side. I use meditation to keep myself calm and clear, because on a long roster staying steady in the head matters as much as staying strong in the body. Finally, staying fit and well-rested is what keeps me alert and safe on site, and that's not just my business, because the whole team depends on it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? First, I see myself still in the resources industry, having gained more tickets and more experience. I'm not planning an exit. Second, I'd like to grow into a more senior or leading hand role, but I know that's earned on site over time, not asked for at an interview. Finally, I'm here to build a long-term career, not a short-term job. 5 years from now I want to be someone this company is glad it hired. How important is safety to you on site? First, safety is my number one priority, always. Not something I balance against the job, but the thing the job sits on. Second, I firmly believe safety is the fastest shortcut, because cutting corners always costs more time in the end. An incident stops the whole site, and the 10 minutes you save turns into a week. Finally, no job is worth getting hurt over, so I look out for myself and everyone around me. That's not a rule I follow, it's how I work. What does Take 5, or a risk assessment, mean to you? First, a risk assessment means stopping before a task to break it down, what could go wrong, how likely it is, and what I'll do to control it. Take 5 is exactly that, done in the few minutes before I start. Second, I'll be honest with you, I haven't filled out an Australian Take 5 card before, and I'll learn your format exactly as you teach it. But the thinking behind it isn't new to me. In my previous work I spent years identifying risks, designing controls to prevent them, and checking whether those controls actually worked. The subject was different, but the process was the same: find the risk before it finds you. Finally, that's why I don't treat it as paperwork. A risk assessment isn't a form you sign, it's 5 minutes that decides whether you go home tonight. So I do it every time, especially when I'm busy, because that's exactly when people skip it. What is PPE and why is it important? First, PPE stands for personal protective equipment, a hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, high-vis, and steel cap boots, plus wet weather gear and gumboots when the conditions call for it. Second, it's the last line of defense. It doesn't stop the hazard, it only protects you when everything else has already failed, so it's never a substitute for doing the job safely in the first place. Finally, I always wear the right PPE for the task, every time, not just when someone's watching, because the one time you skip it is the time you need it. What is a toolbox meeting? First, it's a short team meeting before the shift, sometimes called a pre-start, where we go over the day's tasks, the risks, and the safety points. Second, its whole purpose is to get everyone on the same page before anyone picks up a tool, because most incidents start with two people working off different information. Finally, I always listen carefully and I speak up if I have a concern. A toolbox meeting where nobody says anything isn't a meeting, it's just an announcement. Do you know what a JSA or SWMS is? First, yes. As far as I know, a JSA is a job safety analysis and a SWMS is a safe work method statement. Both break a job down into steps, list the hazards in each step, and set out the controls for them. The SWMS is the more formal one, required for high-risk work. Second, I haven't written one on an Australian site, so I'll follow your format exactly. But breaking a job into steps and asking what could hurt someone here, and what stops it, that's a way of thinking I've used for years in my previous work, just applied to a different subject. Finally, the important part isn't reading it once and signing it. If the job changes on the day, the SWMS has to change with it. A document that no longer matches the work isn't protecting anyone. So I read it before I start, follow it exactly, and speak up if what's in front of me doesn't match what's on the paper. Do you know what a near miss is? First, yes. A near miss is when something almost caused an injury but didn't. Nobody got hurt, but only because of luck or timing, not because the system worked. Second, that's exactly why reporting them matters. A near miss is the same accident with the injury left out, so it's a free warning about something that will eventually hurt someone. Finally, I'd always report a near miss rather than brush it off. Nothing happened this time, and that's the only reason we still have a chance to fix it. How would you handle an emergency or evacuation on site? First, I'd stay calm and follow the emergency procedure. I make a point of knowing the evacuation routes and the muster point before anything happens, because an emergency is not the time to start learning them. Second, I'd go to the muster point as directed and make sure I'm accounted for, since a head count that's missing one person sends someone back in to look for me. Finally, I'd help others if it's safe to do so and follow the supervisor's instructions. Staying calm and clear-headed is the most important thing, because panic spreads faster than any hazard. Have you ever worked under strict safety rules before? First, yes. In construction and service work I always followed the safety rules that were in place, so working to a standard isn't new to me. Second, I understand rules are there to keep everyone safe, not to slow us down. Every rule on a site is usually there because something went wrong once. Finally, I'm ready to learn and follow your procedures exactly. I won't assume that what I did somewhere else applies here, I'd rather be shown your way first. How do you make sure you understand a task before starting? First, I listen carefully to the instructions and read the SWMS if there is one. That's what it's there for. Second, if anything is unclear, I ask questions before I start, and I repeat the task back in my own words to confirm I've got it right. I never guess, because guessing on a worksite is how people get hurt. Finally, getting it right the first time is safer and it saves time. A question that takes a minute is cheaper than rework that takes a day. How do you keep your work area clean and safe? First, I follow good housekeeping. I keep walkways clear, tidy up as I go rather than leaving it all to the end, and put tools away properly. Second, a clean site prevents trips and slips, and those are the hazards people stop noticing. A cable across a walkway is invisible until someone's on the ground. Finally, if I see something out of place, I deal with it there and then, even if I didn't put it there. It's a simple habit that makes a big difference.